5.
Make sure that CC and clip ready. We need it for the second.
4.
Facts from the Clarendon correspondent coming through now.
3.
All the international stories in the folder, go to
2.
Newsreaders all set.
Yeah, man, everything set, everything ready.
1.
From the grill to Morant Point, NewsTalk 93 FM has got it covered. Across the 7 seas to the 4 corners of the world, it's all captured on the 93 radar. 93.1, 93.3, 93.5, 93.7, and 93.9 on your FM dial. Real News at 5 starts now.
Good afternoon. Time for the 5 o'clock newscast here on NewsTalk 93 FM. I'm Andre Bernard. Coming up in this newscast, National Security Minister Peter Bunting says Jamaica is seriously affected by perpetrators who are always involved in criminal activities. Air traffic controllers have again taken industrial action, and this time it has disrupted Jamaica's airspace. Former acting principal of Brownstown Community College, Tekla Mekflet, says demoted St. Hilda's head girl should be reappointed. And Young Jamaica says National Security Minister Peter Bunting's response to the announced UK prison deal is disrespectful to Jamaicans. And now the news in detail. National Security Minister Peter Bunting says Jamaica has an extremely violent problem caused by perpetrators who are always involved in criminal activities. He makes this assertion given the high incidence of violent crimes rocking the country on a regular basis.
What we have is a murder problem, extreme violence problem. When you look at the victims, when we do the victimology of who has been either murdered or shot and survived, you find a high percentage of those are persons who are either involved in criminal activity or the immediate family or associates of those involved in criminal activity.
He says in order to maintain public order, the culture of violent crime and lawlessness have to be addressed urgently, and all illegal transactions and activities by unscrupulous individuals have to stop.
If we want to look at the issue of public order, we have to address frontally, not just from law enforcement, but as a society, this culture of lawlessness, which has become the norm, which is not just the mother not being willfully blind to the teenage son who suddenly has disproportionate amount of assets, but the used car dealer who, in violation of poker, will accept a bag of cash of millions of dollars, or the car dealer, I should say, to the hardware, the persons who launder the money, the persons who facilitate these criminal transactions.
Bunting also indicates that the majority of persons who enter prisons are not hardened criminals, but a change in environment can cause them to be inclined to be hardened criminals.
The vast majority of who go into the correctional system go for very short sentences, 3 months to 3 years. So they're not hardened criminals when they go in the first time. But if we create an environment that dehumanizes them and degrades them and puts them together with hardened criminals, who might be a small percentage of the total, but who are there for life, to educate them in the criminal lifestyle for having subjected them to this dehumanizing and degrading lifestyle in that prison, then what we are creating is just a revolving door.
National Security Minister Peter Bunting. He was speaking at the National Security Policy Coordinated Unit Conference at the regional headquarters at the University of the West Indies, Mona, this morning. More than 11,000 Jamaicans were deported from the United States, the United Kingdom, Canada, and several other countries between 2010 and last year. Amid the controversy over the proposed prisoner transfer deal between Jamaica and the UK, data from the Economic and Social Survey of Jamaica shows that 11,886 Jamaicans were deported for various criminal and immigration violations over the 5-year period. The figures show that 5,853, or nearly half that number were deported from the US, followed by the UK, which sent back 1,659 Jamaicans. Canada was next, deporting 1,055 Jamaicans. A breakdown of the data shows that there has been a steady decline in deportees coming from the US and from the UK, as the number of Jamaicans who were deported from the UK dipped from 458 in 2010 to 290 last year. But despite the declining figures, Police Commissioner Dr. Carl Williams says he has concerns about the influx of deportees, especially those convicted for serious crimes. While indicating that he's not worried about those persons deported for immigration violations, Williams says he is concerned about the return of thousands of criminals. However, the police commissioner says the system is in place to process and monitor deportees and has been working to a large extent. Justice Minister Senator Mark Golding says the reform of Jamaica's ganja laws has already seen arrests reduced by about 1,000 per month. He says the authorities expect that 15,000 fewer ganja-related cases will be before the courts each year. Senator Golding says this will significantly lessen the number of young men who are introduced into Jamaica's criminal justice system. The amendment to the Dangerous Drugs Act came into force earlier this year, with the main goal of reducing the arrest and incarceration of young people for minor ganja offences. Possession of less than 2 ounces of ganja and smoking of the weed in public are now non-arrestable infractions for which a ticket may be issued. The penalty is $500 and it is payable at any tax collectorate. Meanwhile, the Justice Minister says the government is not in a position to compensate persons who report for juror duty but are not empanelled. Senator Golding notes that this has been a long-held rule and there are no plans at this time to change it. There have been renewed calls recently from members of the public who complain about the lack of compensation. Potential jurors say it is unfair that they lose several work days without the government providing lunch or a stipend. They say it is especially difficult for jurors who are self-employed or day labourers. They say it can take weeks for a jury to be empanelled to try a case. Only those who have been selected to sit on a panel are compensated by the government. The Justice Minister says the government appreciates all who report to perform their civic duty and is encouraging more Jamaicans to take on jury duty. He says the government continues to work to reduce delays as it regards jury selection. You're listening to news here on NewsTalk 93 FM. It is now 10 minutes after 5 o'clock. Air traffic controllers have again taken industrial action, and this time it has resulted in disruption to Jamaica's airspace. Director General of the Jamaica Civil Aviation Authority, Nari William Singh, says the action by controllers started on Tuesday. William Singh says as a result, the authority has had to close Jamaica's airspace between 11 p.m. and 7 a.m. The Director General says the decision to close the country's airspace has been communicated to the authority's international partners. He also says management personnel have been taking on the duties of the protesting air traffic controllers as part of contingency measures. William Singh says the Civil Aviation Authority is in talks with the air traffic controllers with the aim of bringing normality to the country's air traffic. Meanwhile, the authority's Director General says he is not aware of reports of flight delays or any other issues arising from the decision to close the country's airspace during certain hours. The St. Hilda's Diocesan High School has responded to accusations by the mother of a student at the school that it discriminated against her daughter when she was relieved of the post of head girl. Rhonda Clark is contending that her daughter, Jade Basco, was stripped of the position because she is a member of the Jehovah's Witness organization. But in a release yesterday afternoon, St. Hilda's said the appointment of Jade Basco as head girl was rescinded, given the potential conflict that such a position would pose, given that she is a member of the Jehovah's Witness movement. The statement says the school has never asked students of other denominational persuasions to assume duties that are in conflict with the beliefs and practices of their faith. The release further states that as an institution operating under the auspices of the Ministry of Education, St. Hilda's is required to participate in national and civic functions and activities such as the Independence flag-raising ceremonies and National Heroes Day celebrations. It says the inability of a head girl to participate in these events because of religious beliefs would restrict and negatively impact the engagement of the school with a wider community. The school says given the potential conflict that the exercise of such duties would pose for her and the institution, it was thought that it would be unwise to put her in the position of head girl. Meanwhile, former acting principal of the Brownstown Community College, Tekla Mekflet, says demoted St. Hilda's head girl Jade Basco was not isolating herself as a Jehovah's Witness from other students of other Christian denominations and was in fact participating in all other duties at the school.
Obviously, this girl was not separating herself as a traditional Jehovah's Witness would have done. The word Jehovah's Witness was just written on the religion because it was there in her application. So she fulfilled all the purposes. It was part of all the worship of the school. Secondly, head girl, there's a job description, And how we supposed to be bringing up our children is that to fit the job description, she obviously fitted it, otherwise she wouldn't. And in the real world, when you fit the job description, whether you're Methodist, Baptist, Jehovah's Witness, or whatever, you do the job.
He explains that Basco was in fact a part of all the religious and other activities of the school.
They've said that the girl was removed from head girl because she's a Jehovah's Witness. All the time at the school, the girl never asked to be removed from prayers or anything of the sort. She was part of all the prayers, whether as house leader or as head girl or as prefect. She took part in all of that. Now, the way Jehovah's Witnesses describe themselves is that you don't take part in prayers of other people. Lena had some of that, but they separate themselves from.
Mekflet says educational institutions should be tolerant towards all Christian denominations and other religious beliefs and is calling for Basco's reappointment as head girl.
I went to Kingston College, which is the Bishop Gibson, and I don't know. Bishop Gibson, you know all about him, the first black bishop of Jamaica, the man who would go down to Mandeville in those days. Mandeville, a white place, and he would, from the pulpit, talk against racial discrimination. The man who called the KC Chapel St. Augustine was an African. At Kingston College, in my time, I'm not aware. I've known head boys who were Pentecostal or some other church other than Anglican, and so I don't see where the matter of precedent fits at all. But the church of the slave master, rather than doing the decent thing and see that they are wrong and reappoint the girl and save her from this bitterness he will hold for the rest of her life.
Former acting principal of Brownstown Community College, Tekla Mekflet. He was speaking on First Start with hosts Dr. Imani Tafari Ama and Delano Seavright this morning. And as the debate continues, at least one attorney is suggesting that administrators at St. Hilda's High School were not wrong when they withdrew Basco's appointment as head girl for religious reasons. Attorney at law Linton Gordon says the school would have been breaching the students' rights by putting her in a position where she would have to perform certain functions that are against her religious beliefs. He says by withdrawing the appointment, the situation has been avoided. However, Linton believes the safest way to deal with such issues and avoid conflicts is by removing religion from schools. And the Ministry of Education says its regional office in Brownstown is currently investigating the reported cancellation of the initial appointment of a head girl at St. Hilda's High School. It has been reported that the head girl at the secondary institution was stripped of her post due to her religious belief. The ministry says it will issue a statement on the matter tomorrow. Jamaica Labour Party JLP youth arm Young Jamaica says National Security Minister Peter Bunting's dismissive response to the announced UK prison deal is disrespectful to Jamaicans. According to Young Jamaica, the minister's posture toward the legitimate questions asked of him in the Parliament by opposition leader Andrew Holness flies in the face of thousands of Jamaicans, primarily young people, who are opposed to the deal. It says the questions asked by Holness overwhelmingly echo the sentiments of Jamaicans on the matter. As a result, the group says the National Security Minister has a duty to be responsive and accommodating to opposing views. It says Bunting's posture is wrong, especially given the inconsistencies surrounding the deal. And in news from the region, the dry spell being experienced in Barbados in recent weeks has created a challenge for the island's livestock farmers in accessing grass for their animals. Chief Executive Officer of the Barbados Agricultural Society, BAS, James Paul, says while the recent rains have been welcomed by the farmers, there is a need to find a long-term solution to the problem. Paul made the comments while explaining that reduced forage has the potential to hurt the future of the livestock sector. Paul says the sector is going to have to explore the possibility of growing more forage than in the past, so that when there is not enough grazing land, it is brought out of storage to feed the livestock. And that's local and regional news. For international news, let's join the BBC.
BBC News with Jonathan Izard. European Union interior ministers meeting in Luxembourg have agreed new steps to increase the speed and numbers in which failed asylum seekers are deported. The measures include detaining people who might abscond before they're deported. Members of the US Congress have castigated the German company Volkswagen over the emissions rigging scandal that's enveloped the world's largest car maker. The chairman of the House Energy Committee said Volkswagen had betrayed its customers. He said it was time to clean up or get off the road. The Belarusian author and journalist Svetlana Alexievich has been awarded this year's Nobel Prize for Literature. The Nobel Committee praised what it described as her polyphonic writings. 4 Israelis, including a soldier, have been stabbed and wounded near a shopping centre opposite the Ministry of Defence in Tel Aviv. A police spokesperson told the BBC that security forces shot and killed the attacker. The Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has spoken out against the killing of a Muslim man who was accused of eating beef, saying India's Hindus and Muslims should fight poverty and not each other. He's been under pressure to condemn the attack, which took place more than a week ago. And a special wildlife task force in Tanzania has arrested a number of suspected Chinese ivory traffickers. Conservationists describe Tanzania as the ground zero of elephant poaching. BBC News.
Broadcast Jamaican and NewsTalk 93 FM now gear the news in the Jamaican language.
Good evening. My name is Kadeen Marshall, and this is the news in the Jamaican language. Linton Garden, where one lawyer said the people them at the St. Hilda High School never wrong when them take by the head girl work from the student if it go against our religion. As according to Eda Reed Johnson, where the principal for the school, them being affected by the head girl work from the student, cause some of the things what she would have to do would have go against our religion as one Jehovah's Witness. But Linton Gardner, where one lawyer said the school do the right thing and take by the head girl work, cause the school would have go against the student right if they make sure do certain things will go against our religion. Him said the best thing for do are take religion out of all of the school them. The Ministry for Education said them regional office in a Brown Town are looking at the case of why the St. Hilda School take back the head girl work from one student. Some reporters said them take back the work from the girl because she one Jehovah's Witness. The ministry said them going to talk about what on tomorrow. Senator Mark Golding said the change them what the government make to the Jamaica ganja law them make people will get locked up cut down by 1,000 a month. Him said them expect less than 15,000 ganja case for go before the court this year. Him said this is going to make lesser young man go before the court. The government make some change to the Dangerous Drug Act this year, and then they look for cut down on the amount of people will get locked up for little ganja. If somebody have less than 2 ounces of ganja upon them, or them are smoking in a public place, them not go get locked up. Them will get one ticket and have to pay $500 at any tax office. News from the rest of the Caribbean. The reef them in the Caribbean and some other part of the world are suffer from bleaching. Bleaching is when some coral were under stress take out the algae what give them color. Some scientists have said the reef them in the Caribbean, Atlantic and Pacific Ocean are suffer from worldwide bleaching, and this are the worst them ever see it. Them say if the problem continue, it will take no years so the coral them come back or them just go dead. The NOAA said this is going to mash up the work for 500 million people if this continue. News from foreign. Jens Stoltenberg, where the Secretary General for the North Atlantic Organization, NATO, said them have to go defend the country them where help Syria. Stoltenberg said the defense minister them agree to send 40,000 soldiers for help Syria. But NATO member country Turkey a complaint say Russian jet are go in them airspace, but NATO has said what Moscow do not helpful. Him say Moscow must stop back Bashar al-Assad, where the Syrian president. Me name Kadeen Marshall, and that are the news in the Jamaican language.
Broadcast Jamaican and NewsTalk 93 FM just get the news in the Jamaican language.
The 5 o'clock Sports Roundup is brought to you by NewsTalk 93 FM, life-changing radio.
Good afternoon. With your 5 o'clock sports roundup here on NewsTalk 93 FM, I am Mikhail Drama Johns, and we begin with football. The Jamaica Football Federation JFF has announced a 20-man Reggae Boys squad for their friendly versus South Korea next Tuesday. The international match will be contested inside the Seoul World Cup Stadium. A few of the regular names have been left off the Jamaican squad, including that of Captain Rodolph Austin. Also out are Wes Morgan, Joby McAnuff, Gareth McCleary, Michael Hector, Kemar Lawrence, Demar Phillips, Javon Watson, Alvis Powell, Dwayne Miller, and Dwayne Carr. Meanwhile, Jermaine Taylor is also absent through injury sustained at the Gold Cup. And further afield, FIFA has handed provisional suspensions to its president Sepp Blatter, Secretary General Jerome Vaughan, and Vice President Michel Platini for 90 days. The punishments were handed out by the Ethics Committee of Football's world governing body, which is investigating the 3 over-corruption allegations. It also banned ex-FIFA Vice President Chung Moon-joon for 6 years. Issa Hayato, who heads Africa's Football Confederation CAF, will act as FIFA president during Blatter's ban. Meanwhile, Spain's Angel Maria Vieira is expected to head UEFA, European football's governing body, while its current president Platini is suspended, and Mong Jun says he will mobilize all legal means to fight his 6-year ban. Still on football, the Football Association FA has fined Chelsea and Arsenal £40,000 and £30,000 respectively. This follows they are failing to control their players during a derby at Stamford Bridge on September 19. Both teams were involved in a fracas before halftime when Arsenal's Gabriel was sent off, allegedly kicking out a Chelsea striker Diego Costa. Gabriel had his red card overturned, with Costa banned for 3 games. Meanwhile, the Blues have completed the free transfer of former AC Milan and Italy goalkeeper Marco Amelia. The deal is set to run till season's end. Amelia has been signed after Thibaut Courtois damaged medial knee ligaments last month and is likely to be out until December. And now for a look at tennis. Novak Djokovic is into the China Open quarterfinals after beating the home hope Zhang Ze. The world number 1 took his record in Beijing to 26 zip in 5 visits as he beat China's number 1 6-2, 6-1. Djokovic goes on to face Australian John Millman or American John Ina in the last 8. Meanwhile, Croatia's Ivo Karlovic became the all-time leader in aces as he hit 26 to reach 10,247, passing compatriot Goran Ivanisevic record of 10,237. Karlovic, however, lost 7-6, 7-6 to Uruguay's Pablo Cuevas. And for the women, Spain's Garion Muguruza sealed her place in the end-of-season WTA finals after a 1-6, 6-2, 6-1 win over Croatian Mirjana Lucic-Baroni. The 22-year-old joins Simona Halep and Maria Sharapova in the singles field of 8, with 5 more spots yet to be determined. And Russia's Anastasia Pavlyuchenkova beat U.S. Open and third seed Flavia Pennetta 3-6, 6-4, 6-3, while U.S. Open finalist and fellow Italian Roberta Vinci went down 6-1, 3-6, 6-2 to American Bethany Mattek Sands. And finally, in cricket, a waterlogged outfield forced the third 2020 T20 between South Africa and India to be abandoned without a toss or a ball bowled at Eden Gardens. The no result gives South Africa a 2-0 series win and deprived India of a shot at redemption. 3 inspections were conducted off the pitch at hourly intervals. Eden Gardens is due to host the World T20 final, and there will be concerns over the drainage, although India's captain MS Dhoni said he did not expect the outfield to dry without any sun, and given the amount of rain that fell and the exposed areas of the field. Meanwhile, day one of the second two-day encounter between England and Pakistan saw England bagging 9 wickets for 192 runs. They had opted to field after winning the toss, and due to decisions for each team to bat all day, England did not take to the crease today and will actually take to the crease tomorrow. And that's it for the 5 o'clock sports roundup here on NewsTalk 93 FM. I am Mikhail John saying stay tuned for the business news and weather report.
The 5 o'clock sports roundup was brought to you by NewsTalk 93 FM, life-changing sports radio.
At exactly 28 minutes after 5, it's time for business news on the local stock market. The index advanced by 699.38 points to close at 99,772.07. The junior market index advanced by 41.97 points to close at 1,099.30. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 32 stocks, of which 21 advanced, 3 declined, and 8 traded firm. Market volume amounted to over 8 million units, valued at over $195 million. NCB was the volume leader. Stocks advancing: Access Financial Services, AMG Packaging and Paper, Blue Power Group, Carib Cement, Caribbean Cream, Carreras Consolidated Bakeries Jamaica, Dolphin Cove, General Accident Insurance Company, Jamaica Producers Group, JMMB, Lasco Distributors, Lasco Financial Services and Lasco Manufacturing, NCB, Pan Jamaican Investment Trust, Pulse Investments, Salada Foods, Scotia Group, Scotia Investments and Supreme Ventures. Stocks declining: Honeybun, Jamaica Broilers and Jamaican Teas. And on the foreign exchange market, the US dollar closed at $119.32, the pound at $182.80, the Canadian at $91.80, and the euro at $134.30. That's business news. And now for a look at the weather. There is a trough across Jamaica which will move to the west, while a high-pressure ridge builds briefly over the island tomorrow. A tropical wave will then move across the island on Saturday. In the forecast for tonight, conditions will be partly cloudy. And now to end this newscast, a recap of the main points. National Security Minister Peter Bunting says Jamaica is seriously affected by perpetrators who are always involved in criminal activities. Air traffic controllers again take industrial action, disrupting Jamaica's airspace. Former acting principal of Brownstown Community College, Tekla Mekflet, says demoted St. Hilda's head girl should be reappointed. And Young Jamaica says the National Security Minister, Peter Bunting's response to the announced UK prison deal is disrespectful to Jamaicans. And that's the 5 o'clock news, sports and weather package here on NewsTalk 93 FM. I'm Andre Bernard. The evening edition with Garfield Higgins